Welcome to an introduction to the murals of Northern Ireland. First, a bit of background. In order to understand what happened and why the murals exist, you have to have a little bit of history. The British came into Ireland about 700 years ago and decided to make it a colony. In order to make the colony successful for their needs, they worried about the fact that the Irish had their culture and their ways about them. Therefore, their choice was to suppress culture, religion, and language for the Irish. As it turns out, a lot of things happened, including the Easter Uprising of 1916, based out of Dublin, Ireland, which would be in this area right here. However, the compromise came later on in the 20th century, where the Republic of Ireland, shown here in a very light green, and the Northern Ireland, which continued to be a territory of the United Kingdom under the Crown, which consists of 6 counties of the entire island of Ireland. A lot of people like to use the equation 26 plus 6 equals 1 Ireland in order to show their solidarity that they feel that those 6 counties should be part of the entire Republic country. So the Troubles are a time in Ireland when people started uprising against the British Crown to try to win their independence. There were Unionists who felt like it was very important to stay with the Crown. Most of these people were Protestant. And there were nationalists who felt that those 6 counties should be part of the Republic of Ireland, and the majority of these people are Catholic. So the Troubles start to become not only a political issue, but a religious issue as well. And since Catholicism was already suppressed as part of the Irish culture by the Crown, it became an even bigger tipping point in the entire controversy. So, the idea of using art to protest came from the fact that the Crown consistently suppressed everything about the Irish culture, from its music to its literature to its artwork and language. Therefore, it's rather ironic that the very thing that was being used to suppress became the thing that symbolically represented what their feelings were. So, the best way to see the national murals and to see the protest murals in Belfast is to take a black taxi tour. It's kind of like exactly what you would think of as a taxi in New York City, a yellow cab, except this is what the iconic cab looks like in Belfast. This was my tour guide, Pedrick, who did an incredible job and was part of many of the issues in the 1970s. So he really knew what he was talking about. Where he's standing right now is called the Mural of the Innocents. These were people who weren't politically involved and were shot or killed in some fashion by the government, the British government, merely because they were there. They were bystanders. A very hot topic to this day. The most famous of the Irish murals is this one. You could tell it's a rainy day. It is a series of different pieces of Irish history, everything from the uprising of 1916 to the hunger strikers of the early 70s. It's shown here in one form or another. These murals are not permanent art. Many times you will find people painting over them and showing a different scene of the same thing. Here you can see some brand new work that's been put up that shows we will not have home rule, which is what the policy from the British Parliament was called, home rule. Here, another protest showing many of the leaders that were involved in it. Here, a bunch of young rebels from the 1916 rebellion. Here, some factual work talking about the Bachelor's Walk massacre when 90 women took part in the rising. Again, in the 1916 era. A clearer picture of hunger strikers. These are all over town, and they are current, and as you can see, they're being painted over to show different things. This is the exact same wall not that long ago. You can see that they feel like they have a right to say things about other countries and how they react to ignoring what's going on or the troubles of Northern Ireland. This is probably the most famous mural. This man's name is Bobby Sands. He definitely took the lead in the hunger strikes of the early 70s when he was in the Maze prison in the H block, which will come back. You'll see that this mural is also right on the end wall of the political entity Sinn Féin, which is right here. You may have heard of Irish people called Fenians, and this is where that name comes from, Sinn Féin. As you continue, we're back to the Innocence Wall, where Patrick explains more to us. This is the peace line, the peace wall. This is the Catholic side, or the Falls Road side, where you can see the wall and the barbed wire still separating the two political and religious groups of Catholics, Protestants, Nationalists, and Unionists. Here you can see how the wall goes up right next to people's houses, which is next to a memorial garden, and there's still riot cages over some of their back gardens. You can see that there. This is one of the many memorials. As you can imagine, the Irish Republican flag is represented very much in these green, white, and orange flowers. Green meaning Ireland, Mother Ireland. White is the peace, and orange is their willingness to include everyone. Patrick points out some of our more famous people who have lost their lives to this cause and what they think is a very important cause. This is the gate between the two communities. It stands open most of the time, but if they feel like anything's going to happen, they will close it down. This is the other side of the wall, so you can see the gables of the houses that we were just at on the other side. Here on this side, the Protestant side facing Bushel Road, you will see different pieces of art representing children's songs, like Ring Around the Rosie, those kind of things. Okay, this is the Protestant side, which you can see has a very clear feeling on exactly what they believe. They believe that they should stay in union with the Crown and the Parliament of the United Kingdom. Now, we're going to move on to another city, which is called Derry. If you were a unionist, you would probably call it Londonderry. However, if you were a nationalist, you would probably call it Free Derry. I'd like to take you on a bit of a mural walk, and I'm going to use an excerpt from Rick Steves' Ireland book to explain each of the murals to you. So we're going to see 11 murals, or I'm sorry, a dozen murals that kind of give a little bit more of a solidifying history to what you've looked at. The first mural is called Peace, showing the silhouette of a dove in flight, both created from a single ribbon. A peace campaign asked Derry school children to write suggestions for positive peacetime images, and their words inspired this particular piece of artwork. As you continue walking, you will find the hunger strikers, which is this red mural right here. Repainted during the summer of 2015, it features participants from the 1981 Mays prison hunger strike, as well as their mothers who were affected and sacrificed them when they made this fatal decision. 10 strikers in all died. The prison was closed after the release of all these prisoners, both Unionists and Nationalists, in 2000. The next mural is called the John Hume mural, which has Nationalist leader John Hume in the corner, along with people of importance to uprisings and the solidarity of peace, including Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and Mother Teresa, all of who they think exemplify how things should be handled. In the middle, you'll see the long-term bridges of understanding that shows the work of these 4 Nobel Peace Prize winning activists. The next mural is called the Saturday Matinee, which depicts an outgunned but undaunted local youth behind a screen shield. He holds a stone ready to throw while the British armored vehicle approaches, echoing the famous Tiananmen Square photo of the lone Chinese student facing the tank. Why Saturday Matinee? It's because the weekend was the best time for locals to have a go at the army. People were off work and youths were out of school. The next mural is called Civil Rights, showing a marching dairy crowd carrying an anti-sectarian banner or a nationalist banner. It dates from the days of Martin Luther King Jr.'s successful nonviolent marches and when they were being seen more wide on TV, creating an uprising of peace right here in Free Derry. The next mural, or the next thing that we're going to see, is the Bloody Sunday Monument. Bloody Sunday is an important, popular moment for Ireland. It is akin with our I Have a Dream moment. This small fenced-off stone obelisk lists the names of those who died that day, most within 50 yards of this particular spot. If you've ever heard U2's song, Sunday Bloody Sunday, you'll know exactly what this is about. It's actually a very historically accurate song. There's a map on the pedestal that shows a little bit more about what happened in the 10-story housing area called Rossville Flats that stood right where this obelisk stands now. The next thing that you'll see as you walk is the runners. The runners are 3 rioting youths fleeing tear gas canisters used by the British Army. Continue walking and you see the Operation Motorman as he wields a sledgehammer to break through a house door, depicting the massive push by the British Army to open up the bog-sides barricaded no-go areas that the IRA, or the Irish Republican Army, had controlled for 3 years, from 1969 to 1972. Next, you will see the H-Block Monument. This is, again, a tribute to those hunger strikers from the Mays prison that had 10 IRA members die. Next is probably the most iconic of the murals. This is called Free Derry. Free Derry Corner announces you are now entering Free Derry, imitating a similarly defiant slogan of the time in once isolated West Berlin, where Checkpoint Charlie stands. This was the gabled end of a string of houses that stood here more than 40 years ago. During the Troubles, it became the traditional meeting place for speakers to address the crowds. Again, this is the only part of this housing that exists because it was taken down by the British Army. As we move on, once again, we talk about Bloody Sunday, in which a small group of men carry a body from the ill-fated march on Bloody Sunday. Father Edward Daly waves a white handkerchief. He wants you to know that he is there to help the mortally wounded. Next up is Bernadette, the woman with the megaphone is Bernadette Michalski, an outspoken civil rights leader who at 21 became the youngest elected member of British Parliament. This was their way of getting in to start making a change for their life. Next, you have the petrol bomber. A teen wearing an army surplus gas mask captures the Battle of the Bogside when locals barricaded their community, effectively shutting out British rule. The last mural, and maybe the toughest to look at, is called The Death of Innocence. This young girl stands in front of bombed wreckage. She is Annette McGavin, a 14-year-old who was killed at this corner by crossfire in 1971. She was the 100th fatality of the Troubles, which eventually took more than 3,000 lives. And she was also the cousin of one of the artists of this. The broken gun beside her points to the ground, signifying that it will no longer be wielded. The large butterfly above her shoulder symbolizes a hope for peace. For years, the artist left the butterfly an empty silhouette until they felt confident that the peace process had moved on. Finally, we come upon the commemoration of the Bloody Sunday victims, showing 14 of them with oak leaves around them, the symbol of Derry. When relatives of the dead learned that the 3 Begside artists were beginning to paint the mural, many came forward to loan the artists precious photos of their loved ones so that they could be more accurately depicted. As you can see, these events moved the peace process forward for Northern Ireland. As we delve into more about the Northern Ireland peace process, we want to think about, where does this peace process sit today? I took this picture about 400 days ago. Tony Taylor is still in prison. He still has no evidence, no trial, no justice, and quite frankly, the excuse just doesn't match. I wonder what we can learn about Tony Taylor's situation, as well as relate this situation to other uprisings and peace processes around the globe.